Are you saying that any climate change skeptic is effectively aiding Putin, Iran and the Saudis?
Keeping the fossil fuel economy going, keeping dependence on oil and gas, on the whole benefits tyrannical regimes around the world. There's development economists have this thing called the curse of oil. Oil gives dictators the foreign currency, the money to ignore the development of their own populations. Saudi is a classic case. They wouldn't be able to have so many Islamic schools if they had to develop their own economy. It puts up the exchange rate, so local manufacturers can't export and they're flooded by cheap imports. It allows people to build a tyranny without being overly concerned about the welfare of their people.
But if the issue was bolstering tyranny, you would get rid of your dependence on fossil fuel, whether there was global warming or not.
No, all I'm saying is it's very interesting that people who call themselves skeptics, it's a very flattering name for them, incidentally. Skepticism is a very honourable badge. You should be.
What would you call them?
Well, I find I'm not allowed to call them deniers anymore. Have you noticed this, Diane?
You can call them what you want as long as it's legal. Would you call them deniers? Well, because that's a kind of got over. I mean, that many people do find that offensive because of its overtones of the Holocaust.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're Nazis. No, I mean I always try and find another word. Idiots is always helpful in these circumstances, I find.
Always play the man rather than the ball.
Well, give me a ball and I'll play it.
Well, we will. It's a gutsy claim. Would you agree that that's what it does?
Well, I just think that people that deny climate change are actually denying the scientific evidence. I wouldn't go in for generalised
You don't think there's any debate on the science?
I think the majority of scientists are on the same side.
Let's come on to that. What do you say, Michael?
Well, I say that it is, I think, quite a complicated matter, and that if you're going to take the little aspects that Nick has taken, you have to take other aspects too. I mean, for example, if you decide that you've got to move away from fossil fuels to alternatives, the alternatives will be more expensive. And that will mean that more people in the world will be poorer for longer. Now, that is a very big consequence. So what I find is a number of assertions are made, and I think they're not sufficiently debated. One, that the world is getting warmer. You say there's scientific evidence for that. I say there's a lot of scientific evidence to say that the world has been very warm at other periods. Second question is this all being caused by mankind? You say the science is clear, other people say it's debatable. The third thing is, even if it is getting warmer, and even if it's caused by man, do we need to put that right? Or should we assess what all the consequences of that are? I mean, some of the consequences might be rising sea levels. Other consequences might be greater crop yields because of warmer climates.
In Siberia?
For example, you might be able to cultivate areas that are not presently cultivatable. And then another issue would be, well, to what extent would you want to put this right by restraining people's behaviour? And to what extent would you want to put it right by technological change, and how could you stimulate technological change? And what's happening at the moment is people are assuming that it's been caused by man and that it must be put right by restraint. And that plays to an agenda which is there most of the time anyway, which is an anti-capitalist agenda and an authoritarian agenda. In other words, a whole lot of people who want to tell other people that the way they live their lives ought to make them feel guilty and ought to change the way they live.
OK, can I try and take that from the top?
Well, do the edited headlines, otherwise it'll be your own night.
Look, there is no other explanation, apart from man-made global warming. The Earth's movement around the sun doesn't help you. Sunspots, which people say, well, that causes variations in the Earth temperature. Sunspots virtually disappeared this year. In the spring of this year. Well, because I before making assertions, I try to do some research.
I know.
I always find it to help as a journalist, maybe less so as a politician.
No, but what you can say is that you can, that you've seen this evidence and you've chosen to believe it. But, there is a debate going on. I agree that the majority is now on one side and the minority on the other side. But what you very happily passed over in your film was the rigging of the evidence at the University of East Anglia. I mean, you said it was unfortunate.
Can we talk about
let me get on to that in a minute. Before we do, no, hold on, Mike, Mike. This is not a monologue. Do you not accept that there's any dispute? Any legitimate dispute?
There's huge...
Legitimate dispute.
Huge legitimate. You're talking about a complex system, a complex physical system.
So there is a dispute.
But the dispute might not suit Michael very well.
No, never mind, Michael. Is there not a legitimate argument between scientists over the exact role that CO2 plays? Not that things are warming, but by how much is CO2 the cause of it? And as Michael says, what should be done? Is that not legitimate dispute?
Well, let's take it from the top. One, is the Earth warming? Yes, that's not in dispute.
But we don't know by how much.
Well, it could be very nasty.
But it hasn't been so far.
Two, is it CO2 and methane? There is no other plausible explanation.
But there are plenty of scientists...
What to do about it? Yes, of course you can argue about that.
Have you heard of the Manhattan Declaration?
Yes, I have, yes.
Where there are several hundred well-known scientists in this area said that it really was a matter of dispute.
Well, you have to be careful with these things. There's, if we're talking about, debatable science, there's something called the Heartlands Institute in America, which lined up 500 scientists who give evidence against global warming. Except that it turned out it was funded by oil companies, and half the scientists listed protested vigorously about their names being used.
But just as some of the scientists protested about the Met using them today to rally around the University of East Anglia. I mean, I know of a number of leading scientists in this field who do not accept the consensus. Doesn't mean to say they're right, but it does suggest to me that there is a dispute. And another issue where there's a dispute, and you'll be familiar with this from your days in the Treasury Committee, a lot of what is being predicted is dependent on computer code, which very often will give you the results depending on what you put into it and how you figure the algorithms in the first place.
That is true. I mean, I'm with Nick on where the science points, but as a politician, I have to say that even if the science points in that direction, I detect a reluctance in the general public to do what is necessary to deal with the issue, and that's the problem.
Well, I think there are two things. I think people are resisting doing what needs to be done because it's expensive for them and it's unpleasant and it stops them doing things they like doing. But I think the second thing is that it is being put over with such vehemence. I'm afraid, Nick, what you've done this evening is an example of this, with a kind of religiosity that there is naturally a reaction against it.
So how is it vehement to say, the world's getting hotter, the consensus at the...
You said that people who didn't agree with you were idiots. That's commonly described as vehement.
Well, no, come on. People who say if you accuse them of being a denier, it's like accusing them of being a Nazi. That's pretty vehement too, Michael.
But do you know...
and indeed slightly hysterical.
All right, let me ask you this, because I wanted to get on to the emails.
Yeah, please.
Has the climate gate to emails changed the nature of the debate?
I think so, yeah.
But why is that, Nick?
Because you see people trying to dodge freedom of information requests. You see people in sort of bunker mentality, a lager mentality, and you see scientists not putting data out. Now, there's no silver bullet for any great conspiracy there.
Sure.
But science of all things ought to be open, ought to be robust. There's no excuse in the modern age for not putting out raw data, your logarithms, your code.
Exactly. Now, I think that you've been very honest there, but let's just remind ourselves that this climate unit at the University of East Anglia is at the heart of the IPCC. There's nobody more at the heart of it. And you read these emails, you don't read the emails of scientific seekers after truth. You read the emails of propagandists trying to defend a particular position.
Yeah, but come on, actually. If I were to hack your computer and Spectator offices and download all your emails, I could find things in there that would make you look bad, or make you look that you're a propagandist rather than a proper magazine.
But this was the science on their work. And actually, you wouldn't find anything to say, let's lie about this and let's not tell the truth about this, and we know what we're about to publish isn't true, but let's do it anyway. You wouldn't find that. But that's what they wanted to do.
You see, Nick, I think it's led to this. It's led to the suspicion, not only that they had something to hide, which is why they were changing the data, but actually that the whole global consensus, as you describe it, on climate change rests upon a very narrow pillar of evidence. And this narrow pillar has been developed largely in the University of East Anglia, and it has to do with...
It hasn't been Michael.
But it has that...
It's all over the world. It's every including... Well, look, Diane sort of answered your point for you. Politicians don't like this. You say it's anti-capitalism, is a bit. You say it's authoritarianism. But all over the world, politicians who know very well indeed, that their voters are going to hate this, their voters aren't going to believe it, are going along because scientists in all countries, not just in Norfolk, not just in the University of Anglia, who have behaved badly, are telling them, I'm really sorry, Diane, I'm really sorry, Michael, there doesn't seem to be any way out of this.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Nick, you got the last word, and we thank you for coming with us tonight. Now, no sneaking off to bed, you lot, or you miss this. Yes, we'll be making sure we